Right, I think I've got it now. I think I've worked out the gremlin that hit us yesterday. So we're live, as I understand it. I can see it on screen there. So listen, it's day two. Let's just get on with it. Bit later than I anticipated. So let's just crack into it. This is day two, and yesterday's day one challenge was about finding your reason, your reason for applying for the job that you want, or understanding your purpose. And whatever your reason, you must be clear in your mind as to why that job that you're applying for is the one for you. So many people just tend to jump from the frying pan into the fire, so to speak, and as a result, they tend to job hop. So if your reason for applying to the role isn't clear to you, then you'll find it difficult to make it clear to the hiring manager when you're engaging with them, and it'll come across in your application and any subsequent interview that you have. So what do you want from the job that you're looking for? You're going to be looking for things like growth, personal development, a new challenge, variety of work, stuff like that. And we touched on what this new job must include yesterday, like being easy to get to, no weekend working, diverse workforces and things like that, easy parking, minimum salary, flexible working and benefits package, and all these wonderful things that you're looking for that it must have in terms of the benefit. And we looked at what it must not have. So you consider things like you don't like targets or shift working or motorway driving, early mornings, long working hours, all of those things. We did that yesterday. So you completed day one, and now the reason, the purpose is crystal clear in your mind. Today's day two challenge is the next step in that process, and it's completing your CV or your resume, depending on which country you're in or which term you use. There's so many different views on this subject. Some work, some don't. But you do what works for you. And what I'm giving you is best practice and what has worked for me. When we apply for a job or we seek a career change, we're addressing a situation that we want to change, that we wish to change, and we're looking for a solution to a problem. And it tends to be either a practical or an emotional decision, a practical decision or an emotional decision. On a practical level, you're looking to learn new skills, you're looking to develop existing skills, you're looking to make a change or add into your CV experience. So for many of you, it'll be the need to earn a better package, secure a prestigious role for you, or you just want to be able to improve your lifestyle or your family's standard of living. On an emotional level, on an emotional level, it may be you wanting to fulfill your purpose, your reason, as we went through on the first day yesterday. You may dislike your role. You may feel that you aren't growing as an individual, or you may feel that there are no development opportunities. You've got the traveling, the cost of traveling, colleagues, or something more sinister. It could be like being bullied or harassed in the workplace, or a simple clash of personalities. You feel unchallenged, or you're just bored. Emotionally, it could be anything really. So you know what you want, and you know why you want it. Yeah. I know that I keep laboring the point, but it's so important. What's the saying? It's what you do before you do what you mean to do that makes all the difference. An old builder friend of mine said to me years ago when I was doing some work with him. He said, "Measure thrice, cut once," and that has always stayed with me. You will have seen some job somewhere advertised that ticks the boxes for the job that you want, and it meets the criteria that you've decided is required for your ideal role. And once you've decided that the advertised role ticks the boxes, you can then apply. So where was the role advertised? Do a bit of homework. This can be difficult if it's via an agency, or an agency that haven't provided the actual business's name. But if you know it, look them up on their website or on LinkedIn or on an internet search. Um, who works for them? Have a look on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a mine of information. You just put the company's name in and see who you're contacted with. You might have a direct contact or a second contact. It might be worth having a contact with them. Most people won't mind, honestly. And if they're a sizable business, have a look on glassdoor.com. But don't take or don't make any decision based on the post there. Sometimes it could be an angry person that has left. but you use it just to get a better feel for the company as an employer. If it's an agency, bear in mind that they earn commission, and some of the lesser ones often throw jobs at everyone, regardless of whether that individual is suitable for that role. This is another reason why it's so vital to be clear with what you want. Put a call into the business and ask the receptionist or the marketing manager some questions about the business. The effort that you put in all depends on how much you want to work for that organization. You've got to give something to get something, right? So, okay, we're talking about your CV today. Let me just make sure that we're looking on, because I'm looking at this from Zoom. Let me just have a quick online on Facebook to make sure it's all, yep, it's all there. That's fine. Okay. So I only got one screen today. I'm not going to mess around. Right, the CV. Okay. Your CV, your curriculum vitae, which means the course of your life. That's basically what it means. It's a document that is effectively your personal marketing document, and it's used for you to sell yourself to your prospective employer. Okay, it's your personal marketing document. Remember that all the way through. So it should tell them about you. It should tell them about your professional history, your skills, the abilities you have, the things that you've achieved. It should also highlight why you're the best candidate for the job. It should tell the reader something of a story about you, because people buy into stories. The more it reads like a story, the more the hiring manager will read. Okay, and if you've got a fluid or a live CV, then updating it shouldn't be hard or onerous for you. But if not, you have to put in a little bit of effort. And as I said earlier, it's what you do, before you do what you mean to do, that makes all of the difference. So if you haven't used one for over 5 years, you've been working for somebody else and you haven't updated your CV for 5 years, start again. And use the original one as a template. Don't just add a line to it, just update it. Yeah, different language, because potential employers don't want to go back much further than 10 years or 3 jobs on average, unless it's really relevant to the role that you're applying for. So if you've had, for instance, 6 jobs in 5 years, you will need to explain that in terms of the rationale, not make an excuse for it, but the rationale behind having so many jobs in 5 years. And sometimes if you've worked for somebody for as long as I did, some people don't necessarily like that either. So you have to explain the rationale of why you stayed there as well. Now, the next bit is important when you send your CV to an agency. When you send your CV to an agency, you upload it in a Word format or a PDF format. It will not be read by a human. It will be read by software to do the sift. Okay, it's going to be read by software. And the reason that you need to know this is because your CV must reflect the role that you're applying for if you want to get an interview. I've spoken to so many people that have sent the same CV off to scores and scores and scores of companies and agencies for their applications. This is, generally speaking, wasted effort. I use the analogy, would you go to a theatre and ask every single person in the stalls out on a date? Because that's effectively what you're doing when you send your CV out like that. If you ask someone out on a date, they will have to see a reason why they would agree to spending time with you, right? And it's the same thing with your CV. Every single job application that you make should be supported with a specific CV to the advertised role. And it should be attached to a supporting letter, which we'll cover on the next event. What I've just said to you sounds like a whole load of effort, but it's the practical and common sense way of doing it. And that, like I said, you did the why and the purpose yesterday. So therefore, you now don't have to go around and spray your CV around to 20, 30, 40 sites. You can pick because you've been specific with your laser focus in what you're looking for. So read the job spec in the job advert. Look at the verbs in the job. For example, you're applying for a telesales job for a company that manufactures widgets, and the ad says that the candidate will remain, or the candidate will maintain in-depth product knowledge of the service offerings of the company. They'll perform sales procedures through activities and opportunities and remain compliant with defined policies. So you could say, when you write in your CV, I have in-depth knowledge of widgets and have consistently sold to my clients compliantly and successfully for the last 3 years, achieving sales targets 3 years running. See, that's why the CV has to be specific. So go through the job ad and highlight some of the key requirements for the role and give an example in your personal statement and in your experience. And make sure that you absolutely reference the essential skills that are required. They're there, it's written right in front of you, so you don't have to do any work. It tells you what skills are required. And like I said, it sounds like effort, right? But how much do you want the job? If you don't want to put in the effort, it means you don't really want the job that badly. And everything that you want that is good requires some effort on your part. And that's just the way of the world, I'm afraid. You have to put in the effort. The document itself, the CV, should never be more than 2 pages. It should obviously include your details, which is your name, your address, numbers and email, so that employers can contact you. And you don't need to put your date of birth. And for diversity reasons, a lot of companies now are asking you to avoid any mention of gender or ethnicity. And they may ask for that on the software afterwards, so that they can see if they're ticking the boxes that they aim to tick, for instance. But during the actual application process itself, they may ask you to make sure that that stuff's not on there. Okay, the personal statement. You should have a personal statement, and you should start your CV with a personal statement. Once you've done the basics of your name, your address, your telephone number, it should start with a personal statement. And this is just a paragraph that captures the attention. It makes them want to know more, but don't put too much in there. Just your main skill and relate it to the post in order to show the hiring manager that you meet their criteria. And this is just another reason, again, why the CV should be specific to the role that you're applying for. A generic CV won't do this at all. Which brings us neatly into the headings that you should use, okay? All right, so I've written some of these down here. I'll tick them off as I go by. So work experience. So what you need to do is list your most recent position first and include dates to and from. So when you started and when you finished that particular post. And where possible, use bullet points to highlight your responsibilities and the achievements in the role, so that the person scanning can match your experience with the job description. Education, again, this should be in chronological order or reverse date order, and it should include details of academic and professional qualifications with the grades that you achieved as well. Skills, whether you realize it or not, you've picked up many skills over the years. So here, include anything that you think is relevant to the role, including any IT packages or any CBT programs that you've used, as well as foreign language skills if they're relevant as well. And if you use skills like communications or project management skills, you should back them up with specific examples, because they're quite broad in terms of headline skills. Yeah. Hobbies and interests. These are optional nowadays. It's only used to fill space and give the interviewer a more rounded view of you as a person. Yeah, unless it's something, again, that could be related to the post that you're going for. References. You shouldn't really put this into a CV. A simple statement like references will be available upon request. That will actually do. Right, so I'm going to tell you now quickly what not to put in your CV, okay? What not to put in your CV. Don't use phrases like proven track record, goal-oriented, team player, I'm responsible for ... excellent communication skills. I explain why in the worksheet. There's a worksheet that's attached to this and that you'll use for this day 2 exercise. But the headline reason is that those phrases don't tell the hiring manager anything whatsoever. I mean, why would you write, I have a proven track record of selling, if your CV already details that? Demonstrate it as a specific example in the CV, okay? The aim of the CV is not to get the job itself, remember. The aim of the CV is to secure an interview. We're not trying to eat the whole elephant here. Let's stick with the immediate goal. And the immediate goal is to secure yourself an interview, okay? My notes are down here, that's why I keep looking. You aren't writing the CV for yourself. Remember, this is not for you. The CV is for the person who's reading it. You already know what you can do. It's for the person reading it. So put yourself in their shoes. Keep it short, to the point. Keep it interesting. Okay. You should also know that generally speaking, a hiring manager will take just 20 to 30 seconds to scan your CV after the software sift. So it absolutely must stand out if you want to be in with a chance of securing an interview. And when I say 20, 30 seconds, they know what they're looking for. Yeah. And if you've got 3, 4 pages, they ain't reading it. Okay. I promise you that they're not going to bother. Okay. So anything they want to know, they'll get from you an interview. So you're selling yourself. This is your marketing tool. What do you want them to know? What do you know that they need to know? So put that on there. So to make it stand out, just keep it short, okay, if you want to be in with a chance. Any interviewer or hiring manager will probably look at 4 to 6 people per post. It just depends, especially nowadays with all the stuff that's going on. They're going to be swamped. So you really, really do have to stand out. If you imagine that there could be up to 100 people applying for the job that you've applied for, you'll see why following this advice will actually increase your chances of presenting your application in a clear, concise, and a persuasive way. Another thing to avoid is phrases and words from the job advert and the person spec of the advertised job should be included in the CV. If you don't do that, you're going to struggle. Yeah. So don't make up your own words. Use phrases and words. Okay. Most companies and agencies, as I said earlier on, are using scanning software. So this is yet another reason why the CV must be specific to the role that you're applying for. Finally, things to watch out for. I've seen a lot of these. I've seen a lot of these when I was interviewing, because I'm a qualified assessor when I was at the company that I was with. Don't be tempted to jazz up your CV with colors and images. I know you think it'll look nice, but don't do it. Okay. Do not write long ass paragraphs either. You know, the reader might lose the will to live if it's just a long paragraph that isn't hasn't you know the kind of paragraphs. I see them all the time. Don't believe me? Go and look at your emails. Go and have a look at some of your emails and highlight just one where you've read all of it, where there are long paragraphs. You haven't, because you're not going to read it. And it's the same thing with your CV, okay? Avoid using bold type. It can help sometimes, but don't overdo it. Do it on 1 or maybe 2 words, but that's it. And never, ever underline words. In terms of your font, use Arial or Times New Roman typefaces, and no smaller than 11 point, okay? Or 11 PT, if you didn't know that meant point, but 11 PT. Never, ever, ever use text to speak. It might seem obvious, but some people do. I promise you. So I'm telling you, don't do it. U is Y-O-U, not the letter U. It's would have, not would of. Would have, not would of. Don't do that. And it's could have, not could of. Okay, it sounds silly, but people do tend to write how they speak, and you can't do that. It needs to be grammatically correct if you're applying for a job. Okay. Finally, don't put your faith in a spell checker for the reasons that I just said. Yeah. Could of might not look like a bad spelling, but it's grammatically incorrect. So don't put your faith in a spell checker. Also, because spell checkers, especially with Microsoft, unless you've changed it, will have a default setting of US, the United States. So use a dictionary if you aren't sure, or ask someone to proofread it for you. You may have some writing challenges. No one's saying that you need to be a grammatical genius. So give it to somebody else to have a look at. If the job is that important to you, consider using a professional CV checker who can help you to improve it. Okay. So your day 2 task, after we've gone through all of that, is to update your CV. Take time. Don't overthink it. Just do it as I suggest and follow the worksheet, follow the process, trust the process. And you'll get that by clicking in the first comment or it's going to be in the units, okay, as per yesterday, okay. I'll be around later on today. around 7:30, 7 to answer any questions live on Facebook. If there are any, if there aren't any, I will be here anyway. And then we'll be back tomorrow morning for day 3. Okay, so today is about your CV, tidying up your CV. If you're not applying for another job or you're not looking to do anything different, it's a useful exercise anyway to tidy up your CV. You just never know. Okay, as I said yesterday, there's loads of this stuff on LinkedIn, there's loads of this stuff on Google, but none of them have me and my experience and the interactivity. I don't believe there's any questions or anything on social media, on Facebook. I can't see anything, so that's fine. So it just for me to say thank you for joining us today, and I shall speak to you later. Bye bye.